Hello, and welcome to Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. We want to keep shining a light on rugby that is not shown in the mainstream media. I am Carl. Thanks for joining us on the next instalment of Rugby Through the Leagues. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod and keep in touch with us on our social media platforms. As you've probably seen recently, we're on the road, out and about. We've obviously managed to make it to a few games. We've tried to do a few other little bits on the social media platforms by sharing games and where to watch them. So if you're enjoying that, please drop us a message on our socials just to let us know that's something you want to see in the future as well. So some bits in these pre-recorded interviews may have played out, as I mentioned with Joe's podcast last week, which hopefully everyone really enjoyed. So we've still got all the questions that were thrown around, but we also get the raw opinions that were of that time. So some of the stuff might be outdated and results have played out. However, we still get to see exactly what they thought at the time. So this week, we have managed to get on James Shanahan, who's the director of rugby over at Blackheath Rugby Club, who just before this pod goes out, I've just seen they've managed to secure their ground as well, which is brilliant. So they can now actually hopefully develop that club even further. So that'd be great to see in the coming years, because if you're following them on socials, they're racking some signings up this year, and that was why I reached out to James to sort of get him on and see what was going on, and they're really doing some good things over there. So this is going to be another belter. Shanahan is also the Cambridge University coach for the varsity games, which I didn't know until I actually obviously went through with him, and we managed to understand what happens there, and that's another eye-opener as well for them to have to throw things together such short notice as well. So that's brilliant to actually talk to him about there. Shanahan's also had a great career playing around in the championship level back in the day, and also managed to go over and play in Italy, which was great to hear and understand, and see where that door opens eventually as well for him, because that was apparently quite eye-opener to the game over there as well, and got to play with some great players. I ain't going to mess around anymore. Over the interview. Hope you enjoy it. Right, this time round we've got James Shanahan on, Director of Rugby at Blackheath Rugby Club. I messaged James on LinkedIn because I kept seeing the amount of signings kept coming through, so I thought we'd get a bit of an update of what's going on over there. James, you've got a pretty decent rugby journey to throw around from what I've looked into as well, mate. So for them that are not enlightened, do you fancy sharing where you've been, what you've done, what you've seen before you obviously jumped on the coaching and up to the DOR level?
Started. I'll go from the beginning. Started from about the age of 8. My dad took me up to Norwich Rugby Club, mini and junior section. I did my first session, didn't enjoy it. So following week, we went up to North Horsham, about 6 miles up the road.
Yeah.
And loved it. And then basically, that was my junior club. Throughout my career, and kind of influenced me massively as a player and as a coach. Probably one of my favourite times as a player when I started off my senior career. And I was lucky enough from there. I got recognised and picked up by Bedford Blues via a friend from Walsham who was best mates with Ben Whetstone at Bedford, and managed to go to Bedford. Great time there. Probably one of my best kind of rugby memories. Probably the 2 seasons I spent at Bedford. Just a proper rugby club. I just loved it.
Was that when they were in the sort of the top division? Was that around that time period?
It went actually. It was there when they were just got relegated and they were looking to rebuild in the championship, or as it was called then, National One. So I was there, and then did 2 years at Bedford, and then got an option to go down to Plymouth. They just got promoted, kind of back-to-back promotions, underground door, and had some really good players, and they wanted to push on, and that they were kind of hoping to go beyond the championship, and had a good financial backing. We're looking to build a new ground, and so I took up the offer to go to Plymouth. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out. Didn't see. I'd say my philosophy compared to Graham's and my philosophy were completely different, and it kind of wasn't really suited me as a rugby player. But some great players there, and I did enjoy it off the field. It was just a struggle on the field. So we decided to part company, kind of went to Exeter under Ian Bremner at the time when they were kind of pushing in the top two with like Worcester and Rotherham, and did like 11 games there. And I kind of came in as a injury cover. They'd had two wingers that had got season injuries, but they were on 2-year deals. So it was only ever going to be like basically a 3-month contract because they didn't have the finances the following year. But yeah, loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was a strange one really. I played at 13, played quite a bit on the wing, and I'm not known as a winger, that's for sure. I'm a fly half centre, but really enjoyed it. And then went down to Cornish Pirates. But yeah, kind of felt a bit isolated down there. Look, it is an isolated place, but just kind of really struggled with it. But look, it's a great club, great people, good bunch of players again. But I had an option to go to Italy, which is I went over for a week to have a look at the Parma. Loved it. So I spent then 2 seasons in Italy, and then basically I was always thinking about player coaching. I was only 28, and I was probably thinking around about when I got to about 32 to look into the coaching aspect. I've always been very analytical, and obviously as a 10, so you kind of have to be. So I was always, that's something I wanted to do. I was looking at maybe doing another year or 2 in Italy. I was having chats with Treviso and Calvazano, but then a friend of mine called me, who I played with at Bedford, and said, "Look, Cambridge are looking for a player coach. I mentioned you. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm not sure yet. I don't think it's quite right for me, but then the guy involved then, Jerry Otter, gave me a call and said, "Look, when are you next back in England?" And I said, "Well, I'm back in actually this weekend." So I met up with him, had lunch with him. He kind of sold me his plan, his dream, what he wanted to do with Cambridge, and I knew about 7 or 8 of the players that I played with at Bedford, so I kind of knew that I would have a good squad. It'd be a good bunch of players, good bunch of boys that I'd get on with on and off the field, and kind of was like, actually, I'm gonna go into player coaching early and give it a crack, and did that, and loved it. Had 5 years at Cambridge, got a couple of promotions. We just missed out, unfortunately, getting into the championship on points difference. Then the money man Jerry kind of moved on, more to do with politics around the club than anything else. And I felt it was probably my time to probably move on as well. So went to OAs, again, another kind of challenge. I always try and go to clubs where I feel I can improve the club, and it's a bit of a challenge. It's something, it's not just not all about money, etc., but it's about kind of trying to build a squad, build a club, and hopefully leave it in a better place. And kind of did that with Cambridge. Went to OAs, kind of said, well, look, they were currently in level 5, and I said, well, look, I think we could get to level 3. They kind of laughed and just didn't think of that. And I was like, look, it's not going to cost any more money. We could keep the same budget. I just think we can get the best players around the local area. We can play the style of rugby. We can have a quality coaching that will attract players. And I know it's a great club. It's a brilliant facilities. Obviously, Saracens use it as their training base. It's a lovely pitch, great facilities, and went there and had some good times there. Managed to get a couple of promotions again, which was brilliant. And then got the call from Plymouth about going into as a director of rugby in the Championship, which I always wanted to kind of get into Championship full-time rugby. I knew Plymouth would be a real challenge because it had the smallest budget in the league, and it's been struggling for a couple of years. But I had good meetings with some good people there, and felt it was worth a go. And had 2 seasons there. The first season really went really well. I managed to bring a lot of players in from like quality players from national leagues and National League 1 and 2, and bring them into the Championship. And we managed to finish 8th, which is the highest position they ever finished in the Championship, and got to the quarter-final of the B&I Cup, which they never achieved before. But unfortunately, because our budget was so small, that our better players that kind of had developed started getting picked off. So, I'm going to a player and offering him a new contract, say, for example, paying him 15,000, and he's got an offer from another club for 30. And there's like no way I can compete. And I think, we lost a couple of boys retired, but then we lost 8 players to other clubs, and so it was another rebuild. And I felt I'd be able to do the same again, get some good players in from, student teams, National League teams, and unfortunately just didn't really work, and, left there at the end of the season, under a bit of a cloud, me personally, but I felt I learned a lot as a coach and definitely developed a lot as a coach. Probably having more variety in how my style, the game, and how you could win games. Went back to OAs, which was great, and at the same time, I was coaching Cambridge University as well, so I kind of could have a double role, which
nice.
I still coach Cambridge University now. Got in my 11th year, 11th varsity coming up.
Oh, wow.
Went to OAs. They just got relegated, got on back into National One, and then got a call from Blackheath, and again felt like a bit of a challenge. Kind of, they wanted me to come in and kind of bring a culture into the club, into the squad. Our goal was to try and push for the championship, and we kind of had a 5-year plan. And we kind of got to year 4, and COVID hit.
Yeah,
and I think we got the squad finally that I think was good enough that would have been, I think, pushing for promotion.
Yeah.
COVID hit, and unfortunately, once COVID finished, we'd lost 23 players.
Well,
just through basic retirement, relocation.
Yeah.
A lot of, all of a sudden, their weekends, they kind of didn't want to do rugby anymore. And to get through COVID, the club also, reduced the budget by about 50%. So we had less money, didn't have the players. We, got a squad together, but it was very late. It was.
Were you in Nat 1 at that point?
Yeah, Nat 1, and we were still kind of signing players in July, which is never ideal. He went into that season where, I felt we'd be okay. I thought it'd be a struggle, but I felt we were okay. Unfortunately, it was a real struggle, and we got relegated. But the following season, we kind of discussed with the exec and stuff, and kind of sold them that, we'd call it the Renaissance, the rebirth. And we signed some good players. A few boys came back that had left, and we had a great year. Got promoted back into National One last year. Finished 8th, which I was a bit frustrated with. I think we win 3 or 4 more games, and you're in that top 5, which I think would have been a fair reflection. But I don't think we were consistent enough over the year. So so that's kind of my journey to where I kind of am now. So that's kind of quite a few clubs, bit of a mixture as a player, and then I've been basically a player coach from the age of 28, and then obviously kind of just focused on the coaching for the last 6-7 years. So it's that's kind of my journey in rugby so far.
That's amazing. So with Blackheath at the minute, then the target is the championship. Is that still the goal, or is it a solid Nat 1 now after the reassessment of the Renaissance, as you said?
Well, the club's very ambitious on and off the field, which is good. The club's just currently buying the ground. Even though Blackheath's the oldest rugby club in the world, it's never kind of owned its ground. So they're in the process of doing that with Greenwich Council, Greenwich University, and that's going through, and that should be hopefully all done and dusted this season. Which will be great, and the club's got ambition of to build on that site. A bit like a like a Doncaster or a Coventry, kind of a nice big kind of corporate stand where you can have hospitality, big events, and offices and other stuff. So it's ambitious, maybe a bit like Rams have got that indoor little facility in the gym area, as that as well. So the club's ambitious off the field. On the field, it's a difficult one, really. I mean, the championship. What is the championship at the moment? No one really knows. Obviously, yesterday the championship clubs came out with a statement, basically saying they're not going to agree the deal that's been put on the table to them.
Well, they basically had the shotgun stuck to their head, didn't they? They basically said, "Sign it, or you ain't getting nothing." Effectively,
and the clubs at the moment are saying they're not going to sign anything, and the RFU are saying, "Well, then they remove them from the league." So I don't, it's not going to end well.
Because they've basically got 4 million to share between all 12 teams. So
so about
I don't know how that adds up. It's 300 grand, and it's something like that.
Grand, which is obviously more than they get now, but it's a lot less than they used to get. But I think it's more. It's that 300. I don't think is. I think it will be put into blocks of how you spend it and where you spend it. And I think the clubs are worried that they just financially won't be able to cope. Now, one thing below the Premiership, every club manages itself. Blackheath, we have a budget, and that's sustainable. And, we won't go over that budget. And every other club, obviously, Premiership's completely different. They're making 3 or 4 million losses a year, each club. So it's difficult. Premiership clubs don't want to push it. So if the RFU put a proposal together that looks like a worthwhile effort to go to the Championship, then Blackheath would be very keen. If it's current proposal, then no, the club is not
sustainable.
It's not going to financially risk itself for the RFU. So basically, we would then like to be a top 4 Nat 1 club that hopefully finishes top 4 regularly. Good National 1 club. If for example, we had a really good year and you finish top, then that's a different matter. You kind of see where you're at. I mean, maybe a bit like Cambridge a couple of years ago. I don't think they probably planned to get promoted in National 1, but they did, and fair play to them, and they were outstanding that year. And they've gone into the Championship this year, and they've struggled to start with, but they got better and better. Now, if that happened, that happens. But ideally, it would be going into the Championship in a very financial, solid base and sustainable in a league that is vibrant and is supported by the RFU. I'm just not sure that league's ever going to happen. So, at the moment, we want to be a top 4 club every year, really, and be a good National 1 club. And if the Championship door is open and looks a good prospect, then we'd like to be part of that.
So obviously, if the prospect doesn't sort of appear, like I don't think it will. I don't think the RFU want the Championship. This interview, we're a few weeks ahead of the release of this one anyway. So by the time this one comes out, there's potentially a bit of movement on the landscape potentially. However, the current landscape is they're offering 30 million to be shared between the 10 teams in the Premiership, roughly 30, 35 plus TV money, etc., etc. 4 million to be shared between 12 clubs in the Championship. They've sort of teetered on the return of a promotion relegation model with a playoff, which isn't really going to be sustainable because of the gap between most Championship clubs at the minute and the Premiership. However, there's also rumours that the PIF are looking at investing into Premiership clubs, which is obviously the public investment fund in Saudi. And 2 of those 4 clubs that they're supposed to be putting money into are Gloucester and Newcastle. So the whole landscape stinks. Obviously, if you guys did, say, finish top next year, the deal has been forced through, however they force it through the RFU, whatever they decide to do to force it through, because I don't think they're going to sit down and negotiate.
No.
If you guys, say, finish top next season, put yourself in the window. So in Spain, they've got the Division D Honour A and Division D Honour B. So in the Division Honour B is basically their Championship version. The federation over here is basically saying they've been told by 13 of the 16 clubs in Division Honour B that we don't want to be promoted. Even if they finish top and get promotion, they're not. Is that something that clubs below the Championship are going to have to potentially review to ensure that they don't go pop at the sacrifice of this lunacy that's being run around at the top of the rugby?
I mean, potentially. I mean, I think it's a discussion you have as a club once you kind of. It's a possibility of being promoted. Or you kind of go up and you enjoy your time there, and you don't change anything. And it could be a season where you struggle on the field because obviously the gap. And if you're not going to make bigger signings and put more money into it because you don't want to go financially bust, then you could be just going up, having a year of struggling, and then coming back down. Is that fun? I'm not sure. That it's tough. You win 2 or 3 games all season. Is that enjoyable after coming off say a promotion high? But will those players? Will they want? Do they deserve kind of the ability to have a crack and have a look at it? And and that's the other things. I think it'd be an open discussion, but I think a lot of clubs would have to think hard about it unless they had the ability that it had a bit of money in the bank, or they had something where they think, well, actually, we can invest another couple $100,000. It's not gonna break us as a club. We've got that nest egg, but I don't know how many clubs have got that, unless you've got an individual backer. So, which we don't have. We don't at Blackheath, which good and bad, because obviously, if you had someone who's put a 200,000 or 300,000 in, you've got more money.
Disappears off.
If they disappear, then you're in a lot of trouble. So
there's probably not many players that will want to come over for a 12-month contract to see if it's going to get extended if you stay as well. That's
the landscape. And that's the thing. I mean, you can have clauses, obviously, where if it was a 2-year deal, first year, second year, if you get relegated, and it goes back to this. So there's ways around it. But I mean, at the moment, to be honest, most players in the Championship only sign 1-year contracts anyway. There's not many that are signing 2-year deals. Unless you're like an Ealing of the world, and Doncaster are pretty well looked after. I mean, Pirates at the moment are offering kind of contracts to basically the end of the year, not even the season, and backing that they will find more money in investment, and they're very confident of it. But what they don't want to do is not, if that doesn't happen, that the club disappears in January. So, I mean,
the owner released a statement the other day, didn't he? He basically said, I've got investments out here. I'm on my exit plan.
Yeah.
However, until the RFU enlighten us and the investors of how this is going to move forward, I can't pour any more money in, and nobody's willing to invest into something that might not go anywhere. So,
and I think the problem is the RFU have kind of showed their cards, haven't they, with Premiership Rugby? This is it. Yeah. This is what you're getting. Take it or leave it, and it won't change. And it'd be interesting to see how many of those 12 clubs stay. Don't
the Championship.
How many of them will actually just
have to cave and roll over?
Yeah, have to cave in that, and because but hopefully it doesn't come to that. I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't know what the Championship clubs do want. I don't think that's been open or discussed really. But obviously what they're being offered at 300,000 isn't what they feel is enough, which you kind of understand. I suppose it's also difficult for the RFU that they kind of feel that the model doesn't work. But a number of Championship players have gone on to play Premiership or play for the national team. I mean, there's a lot. But then the RFU could think they could be saying it doesn't work, but they actually know it does work, but they'd have to invest anything into it because it's working currently without being invested into. They are still making Premiership players in the Championship. There's still academy players that are doing really well in the Championship. You look at your Amptills, who've got a lot of Saracens players. Okay, you look at London Scottish with your Quins boys. Obviously, Pirates have got Exeter boys. It's working without anyone having to spend any extra money. So the RFU are sitting there going, well, why should we? And that's the difficult thing, isn't it? If it really wasn't working, then I suppose the Championship clubs wouldn't have a leg to stand on, and the RFU could say this is the best offer we can do. But it kind of is working. Unfortunately, the Championship.
As you say, are the Championship clubs just basically extended development squads? Are they? Is that
pretty much?
Are they having to pay for the loans? Are the loans being subsidised by the clubs in the Premiership?
I think it all depends on the different clubs,
player and the agreements and stuff.
I think there'll be very good deals. Like, for example, when I was at Plymouth, we had some boys from Exeter, and Rob Baxter and Exeter were really good, and they didn't want huge amounts of money for those players. They wanted those players playing Championship. They wanted them experiencing that level. And trying to be the best they can be in the Championship, knowing that if they do that and they do really well, they've got every opportunity to be a Premiership player. So I'd imagine most clubs, Premiership clubs, aren't, asking for a fortune. I think it's knowing how beneficial it is to develop their players for a season, say in the Championship or two, that they then could kick on and be Premiership rugby players. Because obviously, with budgets being so tight in the Premiership, with restrictions and salary caps, and with the money and stuff, they need to be developing within. And spending less money that way than bringing players in from elsewhere and spending 6-figure contracts and stuff. So I think the Premiership clubs are probably pretty good with what they're doing for the Championship clubs. Northampton as well with Bedford. So there's a lot of examples.
But is that the club? Do you think that's the clubs doing it off their own back, or is that the clubs being forced into that with the RFU behind the scenes that send these players out, or is it just agreements that they've got in place?
Premiership clubs and Championship clubs having good relationships and knowing that it's going to be beneficial both ways. And a lot of those Championship clubs, if they didn't have that influx of players, would probably struggle. Because they would have to find players
Talent
from elsewhere
from
and
nowhere.
pay them probably more. I would say they'll probably pay players more that their own players, and they will be having to play for these loan players. So I think it's a two-way street, and I think it works pretty well at the moment, which probably again makes the RFU sit there and go, well, it's working. Why should we invest anything?
It's working. They're getting games, but there's no growth model, is there? There's no progression past that being a development vessel for the Premier League, and whether they think that's the golden goose. But even in that, you can't be running Premiership clubs at £4 million a year loss. Maybe that's where, or £3 million a year, or whatever it is at the minute. Maybe that's where that additional funding is, just to plug that gap, to make them all look like they're breaking even, just to sort of cover the gaps at the minute. So it's quite a disappointing state of affairs for growth. But we've had recently had a couple of lads on that played at Worthing. So obviously they were Nat too. So Matt McLean and Liam Perkins have both been on, and they obviously had a link with Quins. Yeah. So most of their introductory, like first year academy lads have come through, and they're obviously there is a path that they obviously come through. But have you guys got a link with a direct club, or
not really? I mean, we're kind of a little bit in isolation now. Because we're our closest really is probably Saracens, but that's still an hour and a half. And also, Sarri's got a great link with Ampthill. You've got OAs on their doorstep. Yeah. So it's pretty got Bishop Stortford just down the road. So, we have had, a couple of players from Sarries. To be honest, it's usually Ealing is kind of where we've had some loan players before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, getting pretty well with Wardy. Obviously known him since he's been at Ealing, which is a long time. So, we get players occasionally from there. Last year, we didn't really work out. There wasn't any room in our squad, and they needed boys. But previous years we've had boys. That 3 or 4 players a year that have come from Ealing on loan. So, there isn't really a loan club for us. Obviously, it was Wasps back in the day when they were, in London. But we're kind of just on that edge of no one really around or near us. But I'm not massively stressed about it. It'd be great to maybe have a loan club, but also it's a lot easier managing your own players than trying to manage your loan players and your own players.
I was going to say, do you have obligations that they've got to play certain amount, like in football, that they've got to play certain amount of games? Or
no, I mean, look, if you get a loan player in and you agree to it, that there is probably an expectation they're going to obviously be playing rugby. So there's no point getting a loan player in and then not playing.
Be a squad booster.
Because the Premiership clubs, what they want, you understand it. They want to develop those players. There's no point coming to Blackheath and not playing, because they could send them to the level below. They have. At the moment, I think you could be loaned up to 4 clubs. So, for example, Saracens would have a player that could be at level 5, and then they've got an option for a level 4 club if he's doing really well, or a level 3 club, and they just move up that pyramid. And if he's not getting game time at level 4, then maybe level 5 is another level 4 options. So there's no obligation. You're never told, look, well, I've never been, and I wouldn't agree to it, but I've never been told you have to play this guy. But if I ever get a loan player, and it's because we need him, it's not because I'm just doing it for fun and having an extra body, because there's no point for me.
No, that's fair enough. So obviously, by the sounds of it, it's a big challenge for recruiting in and around probably Nat 1, Nat 2. As you said, a diverse player pool that's you've either got to put your hand in your pocket, or you reach on players from loan. You guys have managed to get quite a few over the line so far. How many got through the door now? I lost track, to be honest, mate.
So have I. It's kind of a bit of a mixture. We've got So we run obviously 2 teams, first team and second team, which is massively beneficial. Like the year we got relegated, we only had a first team, and it really hurt us because we just didn't have the depth for the players. And by the time we got to the end of the season, you're kind of hanging on by a thread. So, we've had a second team for the last couple of years, which is difficult because, every player wants to play first team, and you understand that. And our model as well with how we pay people is you get paid to play in the first team. You get rewarded for playing in the first team and winning in the first team. Okay, so again, and there's a lot of clubs around the area in Kent that are in and around National League Rugby. So you can have TJs or Canterbury, pick up, or Westcombe Park now. Pick up a couple of players that say are just on the fringes of the first team, but not playing every week, and then being paid a couple £100 a game. Oh. And that player knowing that he can go and pick up a couple £100 a game or he could sit in our squad and play a handful of first game for a couple £100, but then be playing the second team all year. So it's a real difficult balance. So last year we had, obviously, like I said, the second team, but we probably ran a second team on a squad of about 40. And that's really difficult because obviously you've got 20 players involved in the first team. If you then have another 20 for the second team, that's your 40. Yeah. Now, at any time, there's going to be about 20% of your squad's not going to be available for injury or other factors in life. So straight away, you've lost 8 players. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, the second team is struggling. And we've got a social team at Blackheath, the Bandits, that play like level 10, I think. Yeah. And we were like borrowing players from them if they were, if they didn't have a game.
What, which was for the first team, are they? They're
not for the second team, which was a struggle because then you've got probably a handful of second team boys want to be in the first team, and then you've got these Bandits boys that are great lads, brilliant people, brilliant club people that just want to play a bit of rugby. Yeah, and they're probably going, oh my God, I'm now playing at this level, and so the key was to try and this season was recruit as many players as we could regarding the whole first team and second team. So we've signed a lot of players. I mean, I think we're currently in around about 50 odd players, 55 player mark. Currently in, but that's going to be running 2 squads. And like I said, you're going to have, realistically, you're going to have a first team squad probably of say 30 key players. Then you've probably got another 8 or 9 boys that could play in the first team and help you, and then we've probably got a good 15-20 boys that just want to play a good second team boys and happy to play second team. So it's getting that balance. So we've made a lot of signings, but it's kind of was needed so we could bolster our squad and have more depth and competition. It will be tough managing that because obviously having 50 odd players, and only having 2 teams will be a challenge, and that's one that myself and the other coaches are going to have to work really hard to make sure we can please everyone, so to speak, and keep everybody. But that's not going to happen. But, we've got to work as hard as we possibly can for that because that just, I think, the bigger squad you have and the more competition just boosts the ability to hopefully perform in the first team in National 1.
So what divisions year 2's knocking around in?
We're not in a RFU league. We're in the Raging Bull League.
Okay.
So play the other kind of second teams in National 1. So you've got
okay.
Richmond, Rams, Bishop Stortford, Chinner, Ampthill, Wimbledon last year, Dorking.
Yeah.
Yes, all those second teams.
So they're actually getting a run out of players that are in or around the same level. So it's not like they're having to drop down to level 5 or 6 just to get game time.
That was the other problem. I mean, the highest level you could would have been level 7, and that that's just not not a good enough level. And that's plain and simple. Whereas if say you play against Ampthill and you're at your strongest and they're at their strongest, it'll be a level 4 game. Ampthill were putting out boys that had played, were playing championship rugby.
Wow.
And if you look at Rams as well, Bishop Stortford always got good second teams. And again, there'd be, I think when we played against Rams, our second team, I mean, Rams had 3 or 4 players that the week before were playing in the first team, and they were like long-term first team players, not just 100 odd games each for the first team. So it's very competitive, but then you do get days where obviously there is a lot of injuries, unavailability, and then the level isn't as good. But that's second team rugby. So, but I think we're, hopefully with the squad we've got, we'll be stronger than we were both teams, which mean we could be more competitive in National One and in the Raging Bull.
So as you said, you bring players in on sort of pay as you play in the first team model. So some of the lads that you've probably brought across, or some of the lads you've got there currently, does the club sort of support them with jobs outside of the club to sort of as part of the deal?
That's what we've tried to do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's only so many jobs around, but that's we're kind of obviously we've got a couple of profiler players. We've got guys that are kind of coming out of university that want to still play at a good level. So we've got a couple of boys that have come out like the Ealing Academy, Brunel, highly recommended, got a lot of talent and still only 21. That want to see where they can go, but want to work and then play rugby. Then you've got someone like Jordan Burns, who's obviously played 6 years at Ealing, I think it is, and Bedford and a few other clubs, and he wants to start a career. So it's good with him to get him a career and then play rugby still at a good level. And that's kind of the mix we're trying to get. Obviously, there's a lot of players already based around London anyway, so we don't have to help with jobs and stuff. And then you'll see a lot of players we've already got at the club that have been there for a number of years. So we're kind of we try and help with employment and stuff and help them with career paths and where they want to go. So we've probably got 7 or 8 players like that in the squad that we've helped with. So we're kind of a bit of a mixture.
Okay, so the lads that you said obviously that have come out of the university sort of Ealing academies and stuff, and they've still got ambitions to probably make it to back up the league. Are they actually still in the shop window? Are they thinking they're in the best position possible available? Or have they had to sort of step out of the shadow, rebuild, and then go back into an academy? Or are they at the point that they're lost to the cause?
I mean, you probably have to ask them in the sense of where they feel they are. But I feel, so for example, the 2 boys we've got from Ealing Brunel, they live in Essex, so they're only half an hour away from Blackheath.
Yeah.
So it's kind of they knew obviously Will Davis, who was coaching at plays and coaches at Blackheath, but he was obviously coaching at Ealing as well.
Yeah.
So they knew him, so that was the link basically. Yeah, I think they still want to play a good level now. I think in their heads, they feel obviously playing National One is a good level, which it is. I don't think they are worried about trying to play in the Championship and, earning not a lot of money. And I don't think they probably feel they're going to be in that Premiership window. So I don't think they're worried about that. I think they're kind of focusing on getting a career, getting work, and then still playing a good level. And then if, for example, a Blackheath gets promoted into the Championship, then they're going to get the opportunity to play in that professional league. But I don't think they are. They're kind of worried about for not being in a shop window, so to speak. I think they just want to play some good rugby in a good club and enjoy what they're doing while working as full time.
Are there many sort of scouts that float around your sort of game to see if there are any gems that have fell out of that were missed? Like we had Matt McLean on the other week who saw Joe Launchbury hunched over the team bar signing the registration papers and not thinking he was too much, and then 20 minutes into his first game said he was going to get capped for England. So, but obviously he fell out of the system, ended up at Christ College, managed to get to Worthing, got sent off to Wasps due to a call from I think it was Will Green was the coach at the time, so he had links back to Wasps. Is that pretty much the only way that lads may get put back in the model, or is there a player pathway for players that might have taken a bit longer to hit their prime?
I mean, maybe not in National One, so to speak, but I think obviously in the Championship there's a lot of players that kind of, have maybe been missed, but then they're being picked up 3 or 4 years later. I wouldn't say we have scouts or anything like that coming along. There is, if there's any young players that are going well for us and they ask me they would like to play at a higher level, then I've got links and networks that I would happily make those kind of phone calls and say, look at this guy, or are you looking for any winger or fullback, or he's worth looking at, and then it's up to them and the player to kind of sort things out. So I'm always happy to do that, which I've done before at previous clubs, like when I was at Cambridge and when I was at OAs as well. Bedford usually being the team that they were kind of getting sent to, we're looking at, and I had told them about that player. So because obviously it was close by. So I don't think scouts and I don't think they'd be missed if they are, say, tearing up trees, and I think they'd get picked up then by a championship club. For example, I don't know, was it the Rams winger Charlie Robson, who had an outstanding season at Rams, was carving teams apart. And he's been picked up by Coventry now, and I'm sure the way Coventry play in their style of rugby, I'd imagine he's going to do pretty well there. And I know there was a couple of other clubs were looking at him. I know Bedford phoned me about him, and I said, he's definitely worth a punt and worth a look at, because he is raw, but he's very talented. So I do think there is, if you're doing well, that you won't be ignored. You'd be seen by someone, and you'll get picked up.
So that's usually down to sort of connections and people dropping a message and stuff like that. There's no active scouting program going back up and down the leagues.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I said, I've got so Ben Whetstone, who's kind of the recruitment guy for Bedford Blues, we're friends with. He will phone me up, probably speak 2 or 3 times a year, maybe a bit more, and he'll just be like, is there anyone, we're looking for, say, a second row, anyone you've seen in National 1 you reckon's worth a, and I'll be like, right, let me have a think, I'll get back to you. And I might send him a couple of players and say, look at these boys, and then he can go and watch, you can watch the games on the Elite Hub, so you can go and watch them live or whatever, or if they're looking for a 13 or something like that. So I'm sure there's other directors of rugby that have been called by other clubs and have similar deals, really, or similar conversations.
Do you think, obviously, the sort of the bit of the boom within VO being used within clubs has probably helped that put people in the window in that sense, because it's easy to get the access and send it across, as long as the club that they played for have got that set up. It's easy to send any detail over.
Yeah, I mean, the Elite Hub anyway with the RFU has been going on a while, so every club's had to video their games anyway for I don't know, good 10 years or so now. So I'm not sure VO's made a huge difference. I mean, VO has made a difference, and it's convenient and easy. You just stick it up and away it goes. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. VO, I think it doesn't cover the action well enough for me. So we have our own person who does the video work and stuff. But I think it's a really good tool, especially for training. It's a good training tool, and I think it's very good also for teams. It's simple. You stick it up and off it goes. So I think that is beneficial. So, but all the games are pretty much they've been online on the Elite Hub for the last 10 years, if not longer. Actually, I think since 2010. I think so. It's been a good nearly 15 years where everyone's pretty much had access to be able to watch games anyway.
Now you've been coaching a little while. What, from looking from how you coach and stuff, what was the biggest issue of when coaches previously? Do you think coaching has progressed, or do you think there's some that are still stuck in their ways? Do you think rugby's progressed and allowed, obviously the younger coach that's come through have brought certain different methods?
Yeah, look, I definitely think. I mean, the game's moved on for every facet, on and off the field, coaching wise, playing, how you play, players, physique, and I think it has moved on massively. How professional it is across the board, and I include that in national leagues. The more analysis and the ability to analyse and more coaches, and so I think it's definitely the game's improved. Overall, are there coaches still set in their ways? I don't think so. I think most coaches I know are trying to evolve and try to improve, want to be better. You're going to get different. I come from, so to speak, I started in the amateur era into the professional era, so a little bit of a mixture. And I've evolved in how I coach as well. It was when I was a player coach, it was probably because I was a fly half and the player coach. It was just basically, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, follow me, because I could run it all. Obviously, when you come out as a player coach and then you've got someone else to do it, then you need to have more buy-in from the players. You probably need more input from the players, and I think I have a bit of a mixture of that. I will tell what I want to happen, but I will also ask players for their opinions and develop it with the players. But it also depends on what path of that squad, where it is on its journey. Because there's no point in having, say, like when I first went into Blackheath, for example. If I first went into Blackheath, you've got 35 players, 35 opinions. If I sat there and let the players run it, it's going to be chaos. So there is a time when you go in there and go, right, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, bang. And you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where you're like, oh, here we go, we can pull now. We can let the players start to take over. And you just guide them. But I don't believe you go straight to a club and you just let the players do what they want to do and how. I don't believe in that. And I think we do. I don't think there is a stigma about certain things with coaching, and that if you tell people what they should be doing, and in this day and age, people don't like to be told what to do. Well, I disagree. You sometimes have to tell them. And like I said to players, never ever personal. This is what I feel would be better for the individual, better for the team, and overall, which is better for the squad. So I think it's getting that balance. But I think it depends where you are in your journey. So, for example, like when I do Cambridge University, like last season, we had Jamie Benson, a really talented fly half, but Quins. He was on his last year, and he had a couple of years of varsity. And we evolved and we changed a few things, but I tried to get more of his input because I wanted him to run the team. I wanted him to be the leader. He's going to be the fly half. So I kind of wanted to push him into doing that. So he would do more in the meetings. He would have an input in how we played and what we want to do. And I just guide him. Whereas next year, we've got a new fly half coming into Cambridge University. So that would be more, I'll be developing him and pushing him, to the point when then he can hopefully eventually take over. But that might take a year or 2 years. I mean, the university season with Cambridge obviously is based on one game, but it's a 10-week block, and then it's a 6-week block into a varsity and a one-off game. So you've only got a very limited time. It's not like you've got a whole season and 26 games.
Yeah.
You've got 10 weeks with 6 games and then 6 weeks with 4 games. But at the end of the day, those games don't count for anything unless you perform on the day in the varsity game. So, that would be... So that's a different journey for that player, for that team. So then I will manage it differently, basically depending on where we are with that team in that journey and where we're looking to go.
So with the varsity stuff and the Cambridge, are you do you coach? Do they play sort of normal uni rugby, and then are you part of that? Are you part of that system, or you in there for the varsity game? Like University of Portsmouth, they've got a team in a league that play week in, week out. Is Cambridge set up the same way? No,
don't. We couldn't do that. Cambridge University is an academic university, plain and simple. And academia doesn't really care about sport. Okay, so we would have no ability to run in a Bucks, say, top league, and players be able to disappear all day Wednesday, every Wednesday. Just wouldn't be possible. So we have a 10-week period in the first term, and we will play on Wednesday nights 7:30, and we always play at home. We very rarely play away because, again, getting availability and players available and be able to get away from lectures and supervisions, and we've got medics, we've got vets, and they're working at hospitals. They're working from 8 till 6 and then rocking up training, or you've got guys are doing PhDs or in a lab from 8 till 6 and trying to find cures for cancer and stuff, and they're rocking up. It's about academics, but they still want to play some rugby and play a good level of rugby. So no, we don't. We just basically have friendlies, as you put it, and we will have, we'll play against your Richmond Rams, Bishop Stortford. So we'll play like their second team.
Still a
bit
top,
stronger, a bit of a stronger team if they can, depending on how their league season is. We'll play then the armed forces, so we'll play the RAF, the Army, Navy, British Police sometimes. Then we have invitational sides, so we've got the Mickey Steele Bodger game, which is basically like a barbarian style game, and usually it's made up of national league players. We'll play the Crawshays, which is obviously the invitational Welsh team. We played Durham University. We played Trinity College Dublin, which is always a great game. They're a great team. So that's kind of we play a lot of good games, good quality games. We'll play Cambridge as well. So, and then that'll lead us into the varsity game in March, basically.
So how do you have to adapt that? As you said, so your first choice fly half, he's finished now. So do you then pick somebody that's in the first year to develop, or do you try and that must be quite hard to once you get to the end of a 3-year period for a player that's probably been your sort of your build around. Do you have to like restart in the middle and then every couple of years? That must be quite hard as a coach to do over a period of a time as well.
Basically, so for example, every year I will lose 50% of my squad.
Right. Wow.
So, and also we don't know what's going to apply and be accepted.
Right.
So, for example, my first ever varsity was 2012, and when I rocked up in September, we didn't have a recognised fly half. We had three scrum halves, and I was like, okay. I was like, right, any one of you want to play 10? And they all kind of looked around at each other. I was like, have any of you played 10? None of them had played 10. I was like, right, okay, well, I'm going to pick one then. So I picked one. Rue Abraham. Yeah. So basically it was a 9, but played him as a 10 and had to develop him over that period. So that happens. And, again, we might be looking for a second row or need a second row. We need, like, for example, at Cambridge University, we're always looking for props. Never have any props.
Right.
Props don't seem to apply for Cambridge University. So then it'd be a conversation. We get to September or maybe before that, and it might be a back row player that we recognise, say a 6 that's 6'2", 16 stone, decent back row player, but he's probably never going to play in a varsity. So you pull him aside and you sit there and you go,
put 3 stone on for me.
Do you fancy playing prop? And he sits there and goes, no. And I'm like, do you want to play varsity? And he's like, yeah, of course I do. I went, well, you're going to have to play prop because you won't get him as a back row player. Have a think about it and then let me know. And then usually, because they're very analytical and they overthink things, I usually have a text message going, yeah, okay, I'll give it a crack. So, at Cambridge University the last 4 or 5 years, I would say 75% of the front row have been back row players that we've had to convert into props. So you talk about challenges, but that's a good thing about it. It's a different squad. It's a different squad every year. There's different challenges, and it's all about one game. So you kind of have a little bit of basically a long pre-season for one game because obviously normal league you get 8 weeks pre-season, say, and then you've got 26 games. Okay, and obviously those games all count, but you've got 26 games and you've got to build up. Whereas, at the university, like I said, you've got 10 weeks where you have 6 or 7 games, 6 games usually, and then you get 6 weeks where you get 4 games, and then it's all about one game. But it's basically, you could win your 10 friendly games, so to speak, and lose the varsity, and that's all anyone cares about. Or you could win it like the other way round and win the varsity. So it's all about that one game. So it's basically a long pre-season. It's just little steps building up, and that's how we do it with the games as well. So we might go into our first game. Usually we go to our first game. We might have had 3 training sessions.
Right. Okay.
So I've got a new squad of players, say 25 players. We've had 3 training sessions, and we're playing Durham University, who've had a 10-week pre-season. So we're going to be massively undercooked, and we're going to struggle, which we usually do. But
you don't give them like an easy game. You don't sort of call up a level 10 and just say let's get a game against.
There's a little bit of politics to it as well. Why it's Durham or someone, because potentially Durham. Obviously, there are boys we've had from Durham that have finished at Durham and then came and done a course at Cambridge University and stuff. So there is those kind of links as well. So we have 3 training sessions. So I'll implement 2 or 3 things in our attack, maybe 2 or 3 things in our defence, and then boys go out and play. It doesn't matter. And then the following week it'd be like, right, this is what we want to implement this week. So you build it up until hopefully you get to about maybe 2 games out and you're pretty much there. And then hopefully everything's implemented. You've got 2 games as a warm up to kind of go for everything.
Yeah.
Then you've got the varsity game. So it's just like a long pre-season, but it's enjoyable. It's completely different to a club environment, and the players are different as well. Obviously, because they're highly intelligent, there's a lot more questions. there's a lot more explaining why we're doing things, and not in a disrespectful way. They're not saying, why are we doing this?
As you said, they're fully
They're
analytical.
just intrigued and going, okay. And once you explain it and you tell them, and they take it very quickly, and they'll be like, okay. So they may be not as skillful as, say, some players in National One, but they pick things up a lot quicker. So you can probably move a lot faster in their development and how you want the team to play than you can within a club side.
Does that work for the players that you've got to retrain their position as well? Does that help that? Because obviously a lot of players that, if you try to do that in certain other leagues in rugby, you're probably looking at a season before somebody can probably pick that up properly, potentially.
Yeah, they do. And, we make sure we've got quality coaching and quality coaches, and they've got that environment as well, so they can. But also, they're all so geared up for the varsity, they want to put everything into it. So they pretty much more or less become without being a full-time rugby player, more or less full-time. They will be in the gym 3-4 times a week. They'll have 2 rugby sessions, maybe 3 rugby sessions, plus a game. They'll be doing that on the side of as well, doing all their studies and stuff and living a student life as well. But they are all geared up and very motivated. I mean, there's probably not many people that go to a Cambridge or Oxford who aren't motivated. Because, it's not exactly an easy place to get into, or either of them. So, so they develop definitely quicker, and it's a challenge, but it's a really enjoyable one. And once you get over the fact they're going to ask lots of questions, you can see their brains are just literally ticking as you're talking. Like robots, just computing it, all of it. But they're always a good bunch of guys, and it's always enjoyable. And lucky enough, I've done 10 of them, and I've got another one coming up next year in March.
How many won then after 10?
We are at 50%. 50-50. So
wow.
It's there's been a couple of tough losses. Probably 2 games I think we should have won and we didn't. But there's been 3 games where, I felt we were always going to struggle, and we just don't know on the day. This year was a great year. We got a history record win. 55-11, which I didn't see. Full win, but I didn't see that outcome. But then next year, like I said, we've got 50% of the squad have gone. So you just you don't know. You just take every game, every season as a different season, a different challenge, and but it's an enjoyable one, that's for sure.
I know you're probably not allowed to say it out loud, but do you get to the start of the season and then you see some of them turn up and you think we're absolutely fucked this year, we've got no hope? Or do you think actually you're already lifting the trophy in your head at the start of some seasons?
No, I mean, if you saw the WhatsApp group that I've got myself, my director of rugby, and my other coaches on it, usually about mid-September, there'll be some comment from me going, "Oh my God, we are." And then my director of rugby reminds me and goes, "You say this every year, but you always manage to get the team together. And by the time we get there," and I'm like, "I know, but can we not have a year where I just got a really good team to start with?"
So you not get it sort of put into the Cambridge entrance interview. No, I mean, can you play rugby? I need this player, this player, this player.
I mean, I wish we had control over who could apply, who could get accepted, but we have absolutely none. No control whatsoever on that front, unfortunately. So it's basically whatever rocks up. So I think this year been pretty quiet on recruitment. I'm not sure what I think we've got a couple of young 10s coming in, like 18-year-olds who have got good pedigree from what I've heard. I think we're keeping 7 out of the 8 starting pack, which is pretty good. It's just mainly the backs that were a little bit. There's been a new set of backs kind of coming in. Don't know obviously what Oxford have got coming in or losing. They'll probably be similar to us. 50% of their squad will go, and then whatever they kind of bring in. So but it's it's challenging. It's a lot.
I was going to say, there must be really rewarding, like really exciting, not knowing how it's going to end up each year. Completely different.
Yeah, nerve-wracking and exciting. Kind of, like I said, you look at it, and I'll look at it in September, and I'll be like, oh my God, shit. Yeah, but then my wife always laughs at me as well, because I always I'll be like, oh my God, we've not got a great team out this Monday night or Wednesday. I think we're really going to struggle.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right. And then she looks like the game finished, and she messaged me like, you just won by 40 points. So I was like, yeah, but I don't know how we did that.
In September, we were shit.
Yeah, so it's it's a weird one. I don't know. Maybe I've I don't know. I'm a bit of a realist. Maybe I need to be an optimist and a bit of a dreamer. So, but no, it's good fun. I really enjoy it, and very very privileged and honoured to kind of be able to do that for the last 10 years.
So how did that come about? Did you right place, right time, or did somebody you know that sort of said that, "Oh, do you fancy having a pop at this?" Or
so I was, obviously I was at Cambridge between 2005 and 2010, so I did 5 years there. So I had quite good links with the university because we'd play against the university and we'd do some training sessions against them. So I get on pretty well. Like Tony Rogers was there, I got on pretty well with him, and I had some mutual, like a close friend of mine had gone to Cambridge University. I'd lived with him, so I'd met Todge and a few other of the old boys as well. So 2012, I got a phone call basically saying, look, we're going to advertise for a coach for Cambridge University.
Okay.
Would you be interested? Would you like to apply? And I was like, Christ. So basically applied for it, and then went for an interview and basically had an interview, and then was offered the job. I did one season, and then I went to Plymouth, so I couldn't commute obviously Cambridge to Plymouth. So I basically, unfortunately, had to resign basically. So I did one season. But then when I left Plymouth and came back to the area, I got a phone call asking if I'd like to come back. They just had a couple of, I think, record defeats, and they were struggling a bit. And I kind of said, I'd love to come back. And so I came back in 2015, changed a few things. We've worked really hard as a club, myself and Scott Annett, who's director of rugby, just to develop more players within. So we have a real good, the squad, for example, that played last season, out of 23, 15 of them had played through the club, either in the third team or the second team, and then into the blue squad. Whereas probably when I first came in, you would rely heavily on post-grads and kind of maybe a few stars coming in, like a Jamie Roberts or whatever. But we're now kind of trying to make sure we can kind of develop within.
DORs walking up and down the halls trying to figure out who looks like
doing stuff like that. So I mean, last year was our best year. Like, we won all 3 of the boys' games, 3 from 3, which we haven't done. And the girls had a really good year as well. They won 2 out of the 3 and probably should have won the third one. So it was really a clean sweep. So the club working pretty hard and doing pretty well. So but that's probably taken a good 7 or 8 years to get to that point. So it hasn't been just an overnight thing. We made a lot of changes through the club and the coaching and how we worked and how the S&C and it's been really good.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So as you said earlier on in the convo as well, you went over to Italy for a couple of years. What sort of seasons? What year was that?
So that was 2003 to 2005. Okay,
so what was the sort of state of Italian rugby then?
So very very good then. So that was the Super 10, so Super 10 League. So that's when you had like Treviso, Calvazano, Viadana. They were the top 3 clubs, and then you kind of had Padova, us, Parma, would be fighting for like that 4th spot, for the playoff spot, basically. No, it was really good, really physical, strong. I mean, in my team we had a couple of Italian internationals, like Roland de Marini playing 10, Carlo De Fava, and we had Alessandro Tuolangi on the wing, who was an absolute freak. He was.
He's only a small chap, isn't he?
The following season we had Sorelli Bobo. Played like Fiji Sevens, won World Cups and Hong Kong Sevens and stuff. It was a really good standard. I would say when you played like a Treviso, Calvazano, Viadana, it would be like a it'd be easily top end championship, maybe just a bottom end premiership. That would kind of be the level. So that's what it would be. It was like, it was a lot of fun, really good, great, great country. It's nice. From March until October, it's 20 odd, 30 degrees. It's pretty nice. Good food, good people, good culture. The rugby was physical, but it was good fun. I loved the 2 years, and I would have loved to have done another couple of years, but like I said, the opportunity at Cambridge just was too good to kind of turn down.
That opportunity, do you think that would have appeared in Italy? Do you think you could have played a coach out there, or?
Potentially. I mean, I probably didn't think about player coaching now. I think I always felt I'd come back to England player coach. I think it was just more the fact of doing maybe a couple more years in Italy. Like I said, I was 28. Yeah, and then coming back to England to kind of settle down and get into with the wife and probably start a family and other stuff. But yeah, kind of Cambridge was too good an opportunity to kind of turn down. And a bit like Italy, is same as France, it's quite volatile. So, you know, you could always be waiting. Like, for example, like my second year at Parma, I literally was leaving to get my flight when my contract finally got agreed. And that was like mid-June. We just lost the semi-final against Treviso. We drew the first game, lost the semi-final second game, and they went through and beat Calvazano. And I went to see the owner just to say thanks for everything, because I didn't think I was coming back, because I did a season. Couldn't agree contracts. My agent couldn't agree with the director of sport. Just like, right, I'm going to go back to England, probably go to a championship club. I went and saw the owner to say thank you for everything he'd done. He'd been really nice to me and stuff like that. And he was like, well, I'll see you next year. And I was like, well, no, nothing's been agreed. And he was obviously started swearing in Italian and gesturing. And he said, all right, okay, wait a minute. So he phoned up the director of sport. They were talking very quickly, so I could pick up bits, but not anything. And then he said, oh, can I give me your agent's number? Or phone your agent. So I phoned my agent, passed my phone to him. He spoke to my agent again. They were speaking French, though, because my agent was fluent in French. So speaking French. I didn't speak any French. Bonjour, ça va. So they're speaking fluent, passed the phone back to me, and I was like, agent's like, yeah, like, done deal. He's going to fax it through to me now. So he basically writes everything down to fax it through. And that was it. And I kind of shook hands and was like, right, phone my agent up. I said, right, what's happened? And he went, well, yeah, we've agreed another year, everything we wanted, almost, you know, the deal you wanted, they've agreed everything. The contracts are being drawn up, and we'll sign it when you get home. And basically landed, got off my flight, contract was in my inbox, signed it, and then went back to Italy 4 weeks later. So that's how volatile it could be. So when Cambridge, the offer was too good to turn down, I was just worried that I would turn it away, and then things in Italy could just go that way or that way. And I just was like, oh, I can't do this again. I can't be like about to get on a flight with no contract or sorting my contract out. So, I just went back to England.
What was the, if you don't mind me asking, what was the sort of salary difference back then? Was it a little payday out there for you to go out there?
I mean, it was well paid. I mean, look, you didn't get taxed, so it was tax free.
Perfect.
Had all the accommodation paid for, all my bills, car. Yeah, so pretty much I would send probably half my paycheck home, and the other half I would go and enjoy myself. Because especially my first season, because I wasn't sure how long I'd be there. With kind of my wife, she was doing a year in industry in London, so she would fly out most weekends, like out on a Friday night.
Nearest airport to Parma,
So at the time, you had a few options. You had Verona, Milano, Bologna. Usually it was the one in near Verona. Probably about an hour away, but Milan was pretty good as well. Bergamo, that was just over an hour away. But that's when Ryanair was very good. You'd pick up a flight for 50 quid return, and you wouldn't have to pay for your
train travel's dirt cheap.
You wouldn't have to pay for it. So if for example, we were playing in Rome in a weekend, my wife would fly over to Rome instead. On the Friday, she'd stay in a hotel, I'd stay with the team, and then the Saturday, the game would be played. We'd stay in Rome. The Saturday, Sunday, she'd fly back. I'd then catch the train back up for Monday morning training. So, we did a lot of that. So,
lovely.
50% say that my paycheck went home, 50% was spent enjoying ourselves. And then when I moved back home, that's when we could basically buy a house and other bits and pieces. So it was very good. But I mean, to be fair, even the money in the championship then was very good as well. It's dropped considerably from when I was in the championship. But it was good. And there were some boys like I said, Alessandro Sorelli would have been making a lot more money. But it was a good kind of good environment to be in, and was well paid. And yeah, it was really enjoyable.
Go on then. Who's the best player you ever played with then?
So I don't know. I think there's probably a few to mention. So I would say to start with, we've already mentioned, but Alessandro Kulanagi. Just look, if you needed a try or needed someone to bust, there you go, Alessandro. Here's the ball, and off you went. I mean, that season he scored about 30, 40 tries. I mean, he then went to Leicester the following year, and then obviously kicked on. Yeah, he was outstanding. I would say when I was at Pirates, Joe Bierman, back row player, then went on to Dragons. Just really talented. And he was so casual about it. He was hilarious. He was like a captain and stuff, but he just, he'd love a drink, he'd love a night out, loved a bit of surfing, lived in the UK, and he'd just rock up with his surfing beach body, with his chicken legs, rock up, and he'd just be like, right, let's just go out there and have fun. We're going to put 50 at them. And that was his team talk. And we're like, okay. But he was like really talented.
Wow. But actually backed it up as well. So he could stroll in, put an absolute shift in, and then disappear off with his surfboard over his shoulder, and that was him.
But he was very good. Mark Fatialofa, when he was at Pirates, inside centre, very talented. Yeah, really good player. Trying to think who else. Yeah, but they'd probably be the pick, I would say. I'd be pretty lucky playing with quite a lot of decent players, but I'd say they would be the ones that kind of stand out. Sam Matavesi, I coached him more than play when he was at Plymouth and converting into hooker. Just thought he was just a really talented footballer. Had a really good bloke, really a very funny guy. Mad as a box of frogs. Calmed down a lot now. But he was a really talented footballer. I mean, I saw him, which is horrendous. I saw him score a try against the RAF a few weeks ago, playing for the Navy, where he got it chipped and chased, regathered and scored. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to be dining out on that for years.
That's it.
But no, he was a really talented player and a good guy as well.
Who was the best player you got to play against then?
I was thinking about that one. I think, Stephen Larkham. So basically played against, before England counties, there used to be like a national divisional kind of 15. So that was like the best players championship down. It was usually the championship players, but at that time it was national one. Yeah. So I managed to, we basically got selected to play against Australia, the full Australian team. So I played at 12 opposite Elton Flatley, who nearly went on to kick Australia to 2003 win. And then you had like George Smith playing, George Gregan. But Stephen Larkham, I just thought he was just ridiculous. Like they run hard at the line, and usually for 10 runs hard at the line, he's going to drop a short ball in, and then he runs hard at the line and just throw a 15-metre pass, and you just be like, okay. I mean, so that was they would have been the best team I played against, but I think he was probably the best player I played against. I just thought he was, he was ridiculous. But they had all their big hitters, they had all their big hitters playing in that game. That was the week before they were playing England, so they went fairly loaded. And actually, I think we only lost 24-15.
Oh, bad shift then.
We played really well, and then had a good night out in Leicester. And they all actually, to be fair to them, they were all out. And leaving the walkabout at 5:30 in the morning, and they were basically getting their kit bags to get the bus to get to the flight to Heathrow to fly. They were going over to Portugal to prep for the England game. That was a good weekend. So I think Stephen Larkham would be the player.
James, mate, what a chat! Thank you so much for your time, mate. I really, really appreciate it. Could have gone on forever. Hopefully, we'll be able to touch base maybe mid-season or something. Get you back on, see how Blackheath are going, and maybe in time just before the varsity as well. So see how that's laying out, mate. So really, really appreciate you for jumping on the pod, mate.
That's all right. That's not a problem. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Well, that brings this pod to an end. If you made it this far, I just want to take a moment to thank you for listening right through and express my gratitude for following yet another episode of Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. So, in today's episode, we find out how Shanahan is leading the charge and the reason behind so many signings at Blackheath Rugby Club, and the unique challenges of getting Cambridge University ready for the varsity games, and also having the opportunity to play alongside Alessandro Kulanagi when he was over in Italy, and apparently he was still just destroying people for fun. So Next week, we delve a little bit back into my playing career, where we have Sean Shepherd on, who was probably one of the best players I ever got the opportunity to play with. And it's also our first door open to peek through to find out about the current successes over at Havant Rugby Club. We discuss his opportunities throughout his career and also how a major injury at a key time can change the course of a potential career. It's another great interview with a top lad who, funnily enough, has actually recently got engaged. So congrats, Sean, just ahead of that. Once again, a huge thank you to you all. Thank you and goodbye.